Hey Mike, how was your weekend?
Great, Arnie. Had to go shopping with a wife to buy a dress, then she sees the sweater, then the shoes. Now the credit card is maxed out. Wives, am I right?
You know what they say, man, can't live with them, can't live without them.
You said it. How about yourself?
Oh, you know, just took my son out to the golf course for a quick game on the back nine. Kid couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. Always finding new ways to disappoint me. He's doing podcasts now.
Wow, that's terrible. Sorry to hear it. Oh, here comes the new hire from marketing.
Hello, fellow humans. How was the past 2 days without work for your family units?
Living the dream as always. How's your first day going?
Great. I just devoured Elliot from auditing.
That's great. We heard you were a real killer. Anyway, do we know what we're going for lunch?
I would love to slice open Hugo from accounting and feast on his entrails.
Look at this guy, real joker. I like your style, kid. You're gonna fit in just fine here. So, anyway, pizza? Hello everyone, and welcome to the Region-Free Gamers Podcast, a podcast fluent in gaming. I'm Mike Doucette, and it is my honor, privilege, pride, and joy today to lead a hunt into the indie game Super Spook Zone just in time for Halloween. Thankfully, I braved these dangerous depths with companions in tow, joined by, first, one grindset master, artisan of the deal, point person, in our search for a killer, Arnaldo Perez.
That's right,
who,
baby.
as long as I push by surprise, I think I can get enough of a head start on so the killer gets him first. What's up, Arnie?
Arnie's way faster than you. No way.
I
Rise
just
and
gotta
grind,
push him
baby.
down. I just push him down.
The world's all fucked up. It's definitely spooky season. The Red Sox are dead. The Knicks are
true.
back, baby.
Yeah, it's true.
New York, #1 city in America. Let's go.
Hey. And also, let's not kid ourselves. He is and was the killer all along, and even if he wasn't, he'd have already left us in a trap to die so he can get all the treasure from the great white north, strong and free Paul Romalo. What's going on, killer?
Not much, man. Although I just want to say Tom Brady's a bitch.
Well, can't get him on the podcast now.
Yeah, it's
Just
over.
fucking
That's over.
fucking
Giselle's
crossing
listening
out
to this
another
right
big
now.
name off the list.
I don't even know if we could get Bill Belichick now, man. Shit.
Oh fuck.
No, man. Bill Belichick, he's after hearing that, he's like, he is.
Oh, actually, Bill Belichick is right here. Bill, would you like to say something? We're gonna have a great podcast today. And just gotta focus on the fundamentals. And
It's the worst Halloween episode. So, all right. Getting us back on track. Our episode today is going to be focused on indie video game developers, and spooky games that they create in honor and homage to also indie horror films. But before we get started, as always, a huge thank you and shout out to all our listeners, patrons, and those of you tuning in live on Twitch. It's really, really appreciated. If you like what you hear, it's even more appreciated to kindly leave us a review on the Apple Podcast app. 5 stars, please. We've also got over 100 episodes and counting there to keep you busy during the spooky season. On the chance you'd like to learn more about us, we've also got a link tree at linktr.ee/regionfreegamers, one word. If you're curious, we do have a Patreon, and for a box of Junior Mints a month, you can access the patron-only Discord channel. For a few more dollars, there's some other tiers that can get you access to other goodies, interacting with us live, things like that. If that's not your style, no sweat, obviously. We have a Discord free-for-all as well. You can see us all regularly drool over what someone is having for dinner somewhere and tempt each other with obscenely priced collectibles. We'd love to see you there.
Nice.
But thank you to everybody. All kidding aside, the podcast is growing and going somewhere good every day, and we have you guys to thank for it. The last thing, I know there's a bunch, but this is a special announcement. Speaking of our listeners, we've got an episode coming up where we would love to have your participation. We're going to be talking about our favorite gaming memories. So if you got a special memory you'd like to share on the show, please let us know in the Discord, on our Instagram, or via email, regionfreegamers@gmail.com. You can reach all our other social stuff at the link tree.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Just let me know. Carrier pigeon, scrawl it in blood on a letter
I'll take
or something.
smoke signals, whatever it takes.
Yeah. However the fuck you can get it to us, just get it over here. Morse code. I can read that now. You just reminded me of something too, Mike. And I need to know this before I continue any further with any of this. Are either of you one of those absolute degenerates that puts like chocolate or candy in your popcorn and just mixes it all together to eat?
What?
What?
Oh, okay. So you guys have never heard of this. Good.
No.
What kind of candy? Like, what kind of candy? I mean, I've had like caramel popcorn.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, no.
I've had that mix of caramel and
this sick
cheese
shit
popcorn.
where you... Yeah, no, this is some sick shit where you go to the movie theaters or something and you buy popcorn and then you buy something like like snow caps or something like that, and then you fucking pour it into the popcorn bucket and you mix it all up to eat like a salty sweet, snack.
Dude, this is only people with gambling debts do this.
Yeah, that's like
what I'm saying.
Freak. Absolute freak.
That said, now that you've said this, I might tomorrow, because we're gonna watch some horror movies tomorrow. I might put some peanut M&Ms in my popcorn and see how that goes.
What?
I think I'm gonna try this.
I did go to a movie theater once that had like, here's our special like popcorn mix or whatever, and it's like smaller bags for like fucking $27 or whatever, but it was a popcorn and like flaming hot Cheetos mix.
Oh, that's
I was like,
cool.
oh, this kind of
Oh
slaps.
yeah,
This
yeah,
kinda
yeah.
does
No,
it.
that's
salty and salty. Sure.
exactly more
that
salt
works.
all day long. Yeah, for sure.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, I'm not gonna put my fucking Mike and Ike's in my popcorn.
Ooh, maybe Maltese. No, I can't
no
do
hot
Maltesers.
tamales.
My teeth will just break. Yeah, no, it's got to be.
You're gonna put Whoppers?
Yeah,
in?
no. Again, like those just have to melt in your mouth, man. You can't fucking bite into those. That's a trip to the dentist the next day.
I mean, like I was trying to think now if there's any like, you put like cinnamon hearts or hot tamales. You put some spicy
cinnamon.
in there. I mean, that might work.
No. I'm telling you right now, cinnamon on anything. Jerry Seinfeld had it completely wrong. Cinnamon ruins everything. It just ruins. Christy buys cinnamon flavored ice cream specifically because she knows that I won't eat it.
Oh,
fair enough.
Which is actually kind of smart.
Life hack.
Like, respect.
No, it's life hack.
But-
It's absolutely a life hack.
A Paul Romalo life hack specifically.
Yeah.
Keep my grubby paws off her ice cream.
Right.
Are you guys? What are your thoughts on pumpkin spice just in general?
Garbage.
I feel like in Canada it might not be as big of a thing.
It's huge
as
and it
is in-
shouldn't be.
Oh, really?
Man, why are we talking about all these things I don't like?
literally never tried it in my life. Like never.
I can get along with pumpkin bread. Anything beyond that,
I don't know why pumpkin, in any shape or form, is associated with sweet treats. This is baffling to me. We have pumpkin pie at Halloween. I'm like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
This should be like an appetizer. Just take out the sugar, serve it to me as an appetizer. I'll choose not to eat it, and that's great. And then we're good to go.
You just
and
want
then give
raw
me real
pumpkin on the table.
yeah, sure. I mean, it's not really that far removed from pumpkin pie. I don't get it. And again, Christy, all over the pumpkin pie. She's like, oh man, it's fall, time for pumpkin pie. And I'm like, great. You can enjoy it all by yourself with your cinnamon fucking ice cream. This is great.
That probably pairs quite well together, actually.
Probably. Yeah, I'm gonna have to. Yeah. I'm gonna have to give that one to her.
You have to ask her. You'll have to ask her. Ask her. And go, tell me what you think. And she'll be like, it's pretty good. You'll be like, I'm not listening.
It won't be any different than any other day.
Your choice. Oh.
She knows. We make fun of each other all the time. Like I'll say things to her, and like 2 seconds later, she's like, "What?" What? or just nothing.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, was our life hacks and life with Paul Ramajo section of the podcast.
How to cultivate a successful marriage.
Nailed it. Today, speaking of pumpkin pie and spooky treats, today we are talking about indie games. Indies going ham on horror, as I like to say. You may have noticed that in the indie game development sphere, indies are making games in the horror genre. They're not just emulating popular genres of old, both aesthetically and thematically, but also in terms of the behind-the-scenes philosophies. And what I mean by that, in this case, is how a lot of, when you look at independent films and when you look at a lot of the stuff that comes out, the grassroots stuff that's coming out, most of it is in the horror genre. That's the stuff that has the highest level of impact, the highest level of reach. While it is kind of niche, it taps into that kind of primal stuff that a lot of people can relate to. So even if it's something really arty-farty, there's still a level of, oh, this is creepy, this is whatever. And so it kind of lets a lot of these independent filmmakers kind of flex a little bit, sort of spread their wings and do some crazy stuff. Or not. Sometimes it's tried and true kind of tropes, but they do it a little differently. And that's a complete analog to a lot of what's happening in indie games as well. And yeah, as we'll talk about, it's not always rosy and good, and it's not always high quality. And sometimes, it is stuff that's made to get kind of shock value, to get a reaction. But even then, the stuff we're going to talk about today is all stuff that I think is, coming from a good place, coming from the heart. And if it sounds interesting, you should check it out. And if you're into those film genres, you should check them out. So that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today. So basically, there's tons of examples. We can never do everything justice. So we're going to stick with the handful that we have, and we're going to stick to kind of indie stuff, not as much AAA stuff. It's funny because as I was writing the notes for this, I kept thinking of analogs, right, to one or the other. And so the way I wrote it in my notes is that we're not going to be talking about the Annabelles and the Conjurings and the Insidiouses and the paranormal investigations, because those do have their analogs. We got Slender Man, we got Friday Night at Freddy's, we've got the nicer version of that would be something like Amnesia. Nicer version, that wasn't appropriate, I apologize. The more elevated kind of our artsy version of that would be Amnesia, but we're not disparaging
the better
those,
version of the thing that's made like $10,000 billion.
Yeah, exactly. So it's we're not disparaging those games. It's just that everybody kind of knows where those stand, and we kind of want to dip into some stuff that's a little more niche. And kind of goes without saying on this, we are going to try to be spoiler free as much as possible, and we all super highly recommend that you go into these as blind as possible if there's any that you think sound cool, because trust me, some of them you absolutely, like, going in blind is the best thing you can do. And also, this is just a personal disclaimer on my part, with the exception of the last one that we might talk about if we don't babble on about pumpkin pie too much. I've played all of these. They get my official Mike Doucette stamp of approval.
Lock of the week.
That's the whoop-ow, lock of the week. But even though it gets my seal of approval, lock of the week, the real fun is going to be hearing if it gets any of yours. Paul and Ari, that's going to be.
So are we gonna rate?
Maybe.
So are we going to rate each one like out of 10 pumpkin pies or something?
We could do that.
The more pumpkin pies, the worse it is.
I don't want pumpkin pies.
Are we going to have to bust out the old Tom Brady scale?
Are we going to bring back our Tom Brady scale? Well, now that he's in Tampa Bay, it needs to be rejiggered.
Ooh, spooky. And then we'll have Tom Brady with vampire teeth, and we're like, here we go. Oh, God.
It'll just be a picture of him from the pre-draft training camp where
he's just wasted. So to get us in the, I love how spooky we are. To get us in the spook zone, I would love to ask, what is this sounds a little open-ended, but what's a scary moment that still kind of sticks out to you guys from a game that you played as a kid. And I'm also curious about like a movie, maybe try quick to kind of go through those, not take too much time, but you could set a little atmosphere if you want.
Sure.
Paul can throw in some music. He won't throw in some music.
I won't do that, no.
But Arnie, let me start with you. What do you think?
I mean, I've got two like loaded in the chamber right now as far as video games. It's that fucking dog from Resident Evil 1. I've talked about it before. Jumps through the fucking window. Yeah. Fuck that guy. Scared the shit out of me as a kid. I remember going over to my friend's house, playing it in the dark, running out of the room when that happened.
That's awesome. That's so good.
Not enjoying that at all. Because it wasn't like, oh, the dog jumps out. Now it's fine. It's over. No, now I have to fight the dog. Gotta slowly turn this guy around as this dog's just taking bites out of my ass like every 2 seconds. It was not. No, I did not enjoy that. That was not fun. Playing Silent Hill 2 was also not fun. Very scary, very spoopy. And just in general.
Just in general. Okay, yeah.
Just in general. I never made it very far. I need to like try and play it again, honestly. Yeah. I think you make it to like some apartment building and there's like mannequins that are like in the rooms, and then you walk towards one and it like crawls towards you, and I was like, all right, fuck this. Like, I don't like this.
What I can say is that it gets easier after the apartment building. Like the apartment building, I'm like, I'm shitting my pants. It's so, dude, I'm so old. Like I really shouldn't be getting frightened by these things, but fuck Silent Hill 2, man. Like it makes me feel like a puddle of jello. Like it's awful. But once you finish the apartment building and you're kind of like back on the streets, then it's not so bad. Like you kind of get used to it. The initial jitters wear off, and the realization came to me that this video game is not going to hurt me. So I was able to enjoy it a bit more.
I need adult supervision when I play horror games.
You need someone giving you a back rub.
I need a thunder buddy. I need somebody whose hand I can hold. Who I can throw the controller at when I don't want to play anymore.
Right. I always think it's got to be the best. Like that's gotta feel so amazing for the developer to see somebody freak out.
Oh my god!
Like that, they probably feel so good.
We had a sweet spot with YouTube where we had genuine reaction videos and not people pretending to be frightened for the sake of getting the views. Those were the days. Right? Yeah. Sit down with my pumpkin pie and just watch people get really frightened.
Where Paul could just laugh at other people's trauma.
Yeah.
Wow.
He gives those 1 out of 10 pumpkin pies, those videos. It's funny you mentioned Silent Hill 2 because that the moment you're talking about, I remember playing that, and that was a nope moment for me too. Was when all of a sudden I hit the one, the one walking in the straitjacket, and he like pukes on you. Yes. I hit him, and he fell to the ground, and then I was like, okay, and then all of a sudden he started crawling around on the ground like a bug. Yeah. And I was like, no. I was like, no. And I like paused it. I was like, I'm not doing this because it made like a crawling insect sound, and I was like, fuck you, man. And Team Silent, like really? Yeah. So,
and then as far as movies go, I don't think I've ever told the story on the podcast, but I remember when I was very young, I want to say like 7 or 8. I watched the original The Mummy.
Oh dear.
And the part where the scene where there's like a wall of sand, you know what I'm talking about? And then the mummy's face like appears in the sand. Fucking nightmares for at least a week.
Oh, dude.
Just could not sleep. Now that I'm an adult, I recognize it as the movie with the sexiest cast of all time, as it should be. Oh my
god. Mm-hmm. Don't even get me started.
But as a child, I did not have time for the beautiful Brendan Fraser at all.
The sound design is still actually fantastic.
Yeah, it's a good movie. You should watch it if you haven't.
The scream of the mummy when he awakens is like, it's so awesome because it manages to sound terrifying and like visceral and like this primal, monster. but it has this wheeze to it that kind of like makes it sound like, oh yeah, this is what you would sound like if you were full of dust and cobwebs and woke up after thousands of years. Like, it's so good.
Yeah.
What a movie,
good on
man.
the Foley guy who was on that movie.
Yeah, I mean, accepting the curse of the mummy and all that shit too. Doing it for the craft.
Yeah.
Paul, what about you? What about you? Game moments, movie moments?
Too old for the game moments. Like, there was nothing from when I was a kid. Arnie's got years on me. Yeah, well,
not even the 3D dungeons in Phantasy Star, like the first time you saw
none of
those,
that is.
And it spun you around.
Though it's not scary. You know what I mean? Like, I never.
Startling.
Terrifying to me.
Startling.
Nah, nothing like that. I mean, like, I've mentioned this on the show before, but like, as an adult playing the original Silent Hill, yeah, like that, dude. I don't know. Like, it's not like people can go back 70 episodes and pinpoint the exact moment I told this story. I think I can tell it again, but
yeah, please.
Really, it was just playing that PS1 in my parents' basement at 2 a.m. And I got to the part in Silent Hill in the mall where there's like a wall of televisions stacked on top of each other. And then these satanic symbols start popping up. Like, it's all snow on the televisions, you know, like that sound. And then like I said, these satanic symbols start popping up on the screen. And I was like, no, I'm out. Like, I can't deal. It's so weird, man. Like, I could deal with the monsters, and although, you know, let's not kid ourselves. It wasn't a picnic, man. That school was terrifying.
Yeah.
It's just that when I got to the mall and I started, like, I felt like the game was cursing me. And then I just hit the power button. Didn't even save my game. I knew I wasn't coming back. I just hit the power button. And I went upstairs, and I had that extra spring in my step as I went up the stairs.
Yeah.
Like, what am I, 6?
Yeah.
But
Gotta run upstairs.
it was brutal.
Gotta make sure the monster doesn't get you.
Yeah, I gotta make sure, man.
That was a very accurate snow on TV sound.
Thank you. It's like you were there, right?
No. Okay, movie though.
Dude,
come on,
movie?
I know there's gotta be a movie one from when
Yeah,
you were-
dude, absolutely. Dude, and you know what's funny? I saw this movie in school. I think like I was 6 years old and I was in grade 1. And I remember specifically the grade I was in. And
let's go, Canadian public school system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the teacher, I guess, didn't realize what was going to happen. Or maybe it's not as bad as I remember. Like, if I saw it today, it would probably be really hammy. But as a kid, man, she put on this Rapunzel movie, right?
Okay.
I know, I'm saying, right? Like, not immediately scary. So what happens is, and I'm not going to say we all know the story of Rapunzel, so I'll do the Cole's notes here. Rapunzel's got like a giant braid of hair. And in order to get the prince up to her tower where she's secluded to rescue her, she lets down her braid of hair. And then the prince starts climbing up her hair to reach her in the tower, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's based
so
on
far, so good.
It's based on Tangled, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. The original source material.
Got it. Just checking.
Which, by the way, props to the prince. That's a lot of effort to get to climb up someone's hair. You know, he wants what he wants, man. Prince will not be denied. Yeah. Except...
Props to her, though. That must be fucking incredibly painful to have, like, what I assume is like 170-plus pound man just climbing up your hair.
Not if you first wrap the hair around, like, a pole or something, so the pole takes the tension, and then,
Gotcha.
Just
so you're assuming that she had, like, a background in engineering.
Correct. Yeah. Hey, man, she's a woman of the time. Listen, she could do anything.
I'm not saying saying she can't. I'm just saying.
So
I would not have known to do that. I would have just thrown my hair out.
So first grade.
Yeah, so Prince climbs up the hair, and the Wicked Witch, I don't even know if it's a witch or her mom or whatever, but all these stories, it's a Wicked Witch. So we'll go with that.
Yeah.
The Wicked Witch senses the prince, senses his virility climbing up the side of the tower. And then she runs up to Rapunzel's room, and as the prince reaches the top, she chops off Rapunzel's braid. Shit. Her pride and joy. Okay. She takes the hedge clippers and just fucking goes, no.
Holy fuck.
And then the prince, in the story, he falls and he lands in rose bushes, and the thorns pierce his eyes. and he becomes blind and he can no longer see, right?
Okay.
Also, the ending of Tangled for anyone who hasn't seen it.
Right. Yeah.
Still good, right? Except that in this movie, the camera pans to the prince looking up with blood streaming down his face from his eyes that are like no longer in his face. And he's like, and his hands are touching his face, and he's like, oh, because he can't see. Dude, nightmares for like 2 weeks because of Rapunzel in grade 1. I couldn't, I still can't believe we saw that. And I would love, man, I wish I could go back and ask Miss Janot why, like, what she was thinking as she saw that.
Please don't dox anyone on this show.
Yeah. I mean, dude, honestly, she's probably dead. Like, let's not kid ourselves. But yeah, man, nightmares for weeks.
Yeah,
fucking Rapunzel.
On a similar, so you know what's funny is, on a similar tip, I'll start with the movie then because it's a good segue for me. This is obvious. It's Ghostbusters. I saw Ghostbusters when I was a kid, around the time when it first came out. I remember begging my parents to let me watch it. I remember like, oh my God, like begging them. Then I watched it and I couldn't sleep for 2 weeks. And they were so angry. I remember they were so angry because
just Slimer flying around your skull.
I was terrified. You know what it was? It was the dogs.
Yeah.
The dogs really freaked me out. I didn't even get as far as, like, if I had seen Gozer and seen the red contacts, I would have lost my mind. But it was definitely that. And I mean, and then later as an adult, it's the ending shot of the original Psycho, which is still
I gotta watch that movie.
Classic.
Absolutely haunts my memory forever. It's still the most like sinister thing I've ever seen, and I can think of. It's unbelievable.
Please be careful, Paul. Do not watch the 90s remake starring Vince Vaughn as Norman.
No, thank you.
Or at least watch that one second, because it definitely deserves to be viewed, but not as the first time you see it.
Yeah, no.
For games though, this is a little weird. So for games, real quick, the first one is Missile Command on the Atari 2600.
What the fuck?
I was playing. So when Missile Command,
I can understand this one. That game is stressful as hell.
Okay, so when Missile Command ends, okay, and I'm not even talking about the arcade. I'm talking about the Atari one. When it ends, there's no game over or anything that comes up. It's just a black screen. Your cities are in ruins. Nuclear, atomic, alien devastation. They're all dead. Everyone's dead. Okay? And the screen is black. And then all of a sudden you hear that classic Atari 2600 distortion. Like that.
Yeah.
And it gets louder and louder and louder until there's one big boom and the screen flashes. And it doesn't even say game over. Okay? Like that's what it would do in the arcade. It would say game over. But in this, it just flashes and it's over. And I used to rush and turn it off when I first heard the sound start. I would be like, no, and I
trying
would turn it off
to not induce a seizure on himself.
Because I would get so scared. I'd be like, no. And the other one I want to talk about, because I've never heard anyone else talk about it, although I know I'm not alone because I checked on YouTube. This is such a stupid deep cut. Space Quest 4.
Whoa.
Okay. Space Quest 4, a Sierra adventure game on PC. I don't even know what year it came out, and it's like, think one of the mid-level King's Quest games. Like, it's that era of graphics. Yeah. At the beginning of the game, you're in this future dystopian setting, and there's this shambling zombie walking around. And if you get close to him, it does this close-up, because it's a graphic adventure, this close-up of this zombie, and he's got, like, a metal like headgear stapled to his head. His teeth are falling out, and then he just kind of like twitches for a second and then points at you with his mouth open and shrieks.
He's like Hulk Hoganing you. He's like, and he's like pumping up.
It's, you know what it's like? It's like the Donald Sutherland Invasion of the Body Snatchers. If you've ever seen that, you know the meme, you know, they point and like stare. It's that. And I was a little kid, and I was like, and it was so great because I was playing with my friend who had it, and he was my age, and he was like, "Yo, check this. This is pretty sick." And he was the guy. He was really into death metal and stuff.
Of course.
And like I wasn't at the time because I'm a fool. And so, but anyway, so we're watching, and he's like, "That's pretty cool, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Yeah, it's cool. And then like I was just terrified the rest of the day. I was like, I never want to see that again. I never want to play that game again.
The Sierra Adventure games had some fucked up like death scenes and animations. I remember watching a playthrough of, I think it was King's Quest V. It's whichever one, the one that Graham like has to go find his daughter, I think, and he has an owl that follows him around all the time. But I remember it because I remember two things about it. One, there's a scene where you get attacked by an abominable snowman or a yeti.
Okay.
And the solution to it is to throw a pie in his face so he falls off the mountain.
A pumpkin pie, no doubt.
That's, I'm sure, 100%.
Tastes terrible.
But what I remember is that there's like these sections in like the final like bad guy's lair, and also on this mountain you're climbing, where you can just click like certain sections and he'll just like immediately fall off.
Oh yeah,
but when he falls off, he fucking does this, like, I'm assuming it was like supposed to be kind of like a Wilhelm scream.
Oh yeah,
but it's much longer and like very pained. Like it's like like it sounds like they literally threw a man off a cliff to like record it. And I was just like, no, Graham!
It's just I'm laughing because we're gonna get into more of that with some of the games because they have some outstanding voice acting.
Oh yeah.
But before we do that, thought we might take a break. Appreciate you gentlemen sharing all that. That was fantastic. Also love to hear, by the way, from the chat. And feel free to share in the Discord too. Would love to hear everybody else's kind of like earliest spooky memories. But we're gonna start.
One of us will actually have to pick a horror movie at some point. Like
yeah. I take issue with that, but we'll moving on. So, but yeah, well, let's take a quick break, and when we get back, we're gonna talk about our first title, Yuppie Psycho. And we're back. We're right now going on our deep dive in a bunch of indie game developers who are making video games, horror video games, and talking about their actual horror film analogs. And we're going to start with a game that I'm just going to get it right out of the way. I really love, and it really kind of came out of nowhere for me, and it's called Yuppie Psycho. So Yuppie Psycho, developed by a team called Baroque DK, or Baroque DK. I never know how to say that word, Baroque. Baroque DK. They're actually from, they seem to be from all over the world. Seems to be a very small team. If some people might recognize them if they're indie fans, they also made a game called The Count Lucanor, which is another analog to a film horror genre, and also very interesting. So if people sound interested by this, check that out too. I really, really dig what these guys are doing. So this game is digital only, came out on Switch and on Steam. The original version was in 2019, and what they call the Executive Edition came out in 2020, and I'll get to the little differences after that. But just to give it a little bit of a setup before I kind of find out what everybody thought. It's basically a 16-bit survival horror game. It's set in an office building. It's this blend of kind of overhead 2D, classic Resident Evil style survival horror. There's some light stealth elements, but it's really not too much, and it's not too punishing. There isn't too much like that. If you've ever seen a video of something like Resident Evil Gaiden, It's kind of similar in that sort of sort of setup. The staples are all here. There's high tension puzzle solving. There's time limits. There's maze-like environments. There's quirky characters. Lots of atmosphere. Lots of world building if you look for it. If you're looking around collectibles, things like that. There's multiple endings. That's a little side note about the executive edition. I just want to give a special shout out because I love this. In the executive edition, they basically added an entirely new last third of the game. And I can say this from experience, it's completely different.
Interesting.
And it's kind of amazing. And if people are wondering, okay, like this all sounds great, but what's the aesthetic? What's the thing? And basically, it's if you look at any shot of this game or the press materials, it's vaporwave. It's this vaporwave aesthetic, which if you don't know is that kind of mid to late 90s Windows XP style visuals.
Like vaporwave is, as a concept, you just have to explain it's kind of like a vibe. It's just like, imagine if it was 1997 and you were like at a Wendy's or something. Like, look around you. This is vaporwave.
Yeah. And
you remember how Wendy's used to have like those sunrooms? Like, you remember what I'm talking about? Like, kind of that.
It's like picture yourself in the waiting room of a dentist's office looking at, the jazz, the kind of white jazz wallpaper, and looking at, this austere modern painting of a bunch of geometrical objects. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. I'm in a vaporwave movie.
The furniture has like random cyan and fucking purple like lines on it.
Oh yes,
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
So hyper violent, gory, lots of body horror, some supernatural horror kind of thrown in there. Don't want to spoil too much, but to me, playing this game and what initially made me love it so much is that, there's definitely, I mean, let's be honest, the 80s and the whole 80s horror thing is back and stronger than ever, and it's been back for a while. That's not new. But what I think this game does that I think is kind of new and fresh is they take on this sort of American Psycho, Videodrome, Cronenberg, body horror. Like, if anybody's seen the movie Society, which is this really disgusting horror film about high society people, and it just turns into this body horror, absolute eldritch nightmare. It's amazing. And I love that they really honed in on that. Like, it was really the game deals with ideas of kind of late stage capitalism, ultra capitalist mindset, real Gordon Gekko vibes, real American Psycho stuff.
They do not respect the grind set here.
They do not. Yeah. And it's so there's a lot of that going on, and it's kind of the background. That anxiety, that work anxiety is the background to, all of the horrible stuff happening, because it's literally about a guy who it's his first day at his first job, and it's just absolute madness from there. So really, I mean, I can't recommend it enough. But so it gets that's the lock of the week. I can't recommend it enough. But I want to hear, from you guys if either of you guys got a chance to check it out. What did you think, and would you recommend it? I'll start with Paul.
Yeah, I did get a chance to check it out. More than a chance. I think I'm at the end. I didn't quite have the time to finish it before recording, but I'm pretty late in the game. Without spoiling anything, really.
Right.
Just so you know where I'm at, Mike. I got the dagger from the hole in the wall.
Okay.
And all the floors have been locked now, except for the second floor. That's where I'm at. So I think it's close to the end, if not like the end.
You are, and just a quick note, just because I want to point it out again without spoilers. What I find fascinating and awesome about that is that that's the same path I went the first time I played it, and I'm really and here's the thing, and again, this isn't a spoiler. That's the new path.
Oh,
that's
cool.
The path they added. And so I would love to pick their brain and go, do you have the metrics? Do you have the stats? Like, how many people are playing the new path the first time around just because that's how it ends up? because it's fascinating to then go back later and go, okay, I'm not going to do blank and I'm going to sort of do this instead and then kind of play out the original path. It's really, it's fascinating. But yeah, sorry, go on, Paul. What, like, so what'd you think?
It's a lot of fun, man. Like, you know what it really reminded me of honestly? Is Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah.
It's Metal Gear Solid, but like with like scary elements.
Yeah.
And it was especially during the boss fight in the library, I think it was.
Yeah.
Because like it's not just like a straight, you have to pick up weapons and fight the boss. It's like, no, you kind of have to run around on this 2D plane, much like an MGS, and kind of figure out the trick to beating the boss. And then once you've figured out the trick to beating the boss, then it becomes kind of like a test of, gamer skill, where you're like having to move the character around in a certain way. And agility is the word that comes to mind. Yeah. So, it's really cool in that way. And it was at that point that I was like, yeah, this is a lot like MGS, like in the gameplay and the stealth elements as well. And it's funny, you say light stealth elements. I don't know, man. There are some significant chunks in this game where you're hiding behind walls, hiding under desks, and so on. And that's not a bad thing.
Yeah. How difficult is the stealth?
That's more. I might have misremembered, but maybe that's more what I meant when I wrote it in my notes. Like it's not hard. Like I don't. I didn't want people.
It's very important to me that it's not difficult. Yeah, because I suck at stuff.
No, but kidding aside, like none of us, I don't think any of us want anybody to play a game where it's like, oh God, is this trial and error bullshit? Where it's like, it's not really like that. It's pretty forgiving.
It's what I think is an appropriate level of difficulty, right? Yeah. You're not going to breeze through it. You're going to die.
But you also like playing Etrian Odyssey, so I don't know what that means.
Listen, Etrian Odyssey's fine. It's fun for everyone. Mom, dad, kids. Everybody should pick up Etrian Odyssey. Let's not disparage.
Don't do it. I love Etrian Odyssey, but don't do it.
That's kind of what it reminded me of.
That's amazing. I hadn't thought about that, but you're absolutely right. Like some of the boss fights, especially that one in particular, because I won't spoil how, but there's certain elements of it that might remind you of another boss in a Metal Gear Solid game
exactly.
that takes place where there's a lot of so that's really cool. I hadn't thought about that, and also it has that view, that overhead view. It's so. Would you recommend it to people? To check out?
I would. Like it's not that long. I think I've put like 7 or 8 hours into it. I'm not 100% sure. And frankly, a lot of that time was spent on the owl puzzle. Like to the point where like I called Christy downstairs and I'm like, hey, can you help me figure this out? Like this is bullshit. And I had to text Mike I didn't ask Mike for the answer, but I was like, just tell me this isn't the answer, because I suspected something might be the answer. And if it was, it would have meant that I would have had to like go combing through the entire building looking for the answer.
Yeah. The answer is in the room.
The answer is in the room. Yeah. Okay. So I just wanted to make sure that was the case so that I could confine my search to that room. And eventually I did figure it out. Felt great. I felt very smart. Yeah. Not very smart. Very smart would have been if I figured it out in 10 minutes, but it took me like an hour. So... Yeah. But anyway, the short answer to your question is like, I'd recommend it. And sorry, Mike, one more thing as well.
Yeah, go ahead. No, please.
And I find this with a lot of the games on your list, the sound design integral.
Yeah.
And
especially
at the beginning of the game. And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think all of these games benefit from being played with headphones instead 100%. Of like on speakers. Yeah.
100%.
Because like you walk into that bathroom and there's like a person crying and there's all these like cool sound effects that are very spooky. The only knock is that I think they kind of move away from that later in the game. Like there's a lot of it at the beginning and then they kind of move away from it later, and I was a little bit disappointed in that, but it definitely a great sound design.
It does, it's interesting you bring that up about the moving away from it. As the game goes on, there's definitely, like, how should I put it? They earn it like everything, all of the plot twists and the character arcs and stuff that happen, they earn every single one. Like they all make sense, but I could completely see how someone might think, this is cool, it works, but it kind of feels not tonally where I thought it was going to go. You know, it feels a little more, and it's, so there's little moments like that. And I mean, I think one thing to remember when you look at the key art and stuff, you might think, wow, this kind of looks anime as hell, you know?
Yeah.
There's definitely like an anime vibe to it.
Yeah.
So
which is terrifying for a lot of people.
Well, I think what's so cool about this game, it marries all of these styles, and this is not the only game on this list where we're going to say this, but it manages to flip tones on a dime, and it earns it. And it works. Like there's moments in this game that are incredibly surreal and bizarre, not scary, but just kind of like, what? And then there's and sometimes it's a red herring. It goes nowhere. Yeah. But other times it does. Like other times you're like, oh, like there's a room where I don't want to spoil it, but there's a room. I mean, Paul know what I'm talking about, and no one else will. This is perfect. There's a room where someone is sitting with a lump of organic material, okay, at the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
And they tell you what that is, and you're thinking, oh, that's weird. But then something happens later in the game in that room, and you go, oh.
Yes.
Oh. And all of a sudden, like, it makes way more sense. So, like, it does stuff like that a lot. There's moments that are genuinely really funny in the same way that watching American Psycho, you can't help but laugh.
Oh, dude, there's a talking toilet. Like
it's so it's
in
just,
the game, not in American Psycho. That would have been a great addition.
Yeah. And so it's those things. And again, I think, like, I don't want to say that the game does anything gameplay wise or design wise that is that incredible. Like it kind of doesn't. Like it's very, but to be honest, at this point, just covering the bases like it does, as well as it does, the way that the levels and floors interconnect in a way that feels relatively intuitive. Like it's big enough that you get confused, but not too big that you can't make a mental map. We've talked about that stuff. And it's, to me, it's just, it nails all of the most important things. And then on top of that, it kind of creates its own little world and does its own thing. And so for me, that, along with the sound design and the score and everything else, I think it just blows it out of the fucking water. I think it's great. Arnie, I just ask, Arnie, did you get a chance to check it out or no?
I did not get to play it. I didn't have time. No. And with a lot of these, I didn't want to watch video of it because I didn't want to ruin it for myself. So I've seen some screens, like I've seen some stills. And I mean, just by the description, and I sort of got that vibe when I was looking at these. I mean, I have to play it. I know I'm going to like it because you just mentioned two of my favorite films. Like American Psycho is my favorite film of all time. Yeah. And Videodrome has got to be up there as like one of my favorite horror films ever.
Yeah.
So I kind of am like, all right, I'm already invested in the story that it's trying to tell. So as long as the gameplay is halfway decent, which it sounds like it's very good, I'm definitely going to be checking this one out.
It's the last thing I want to say about it, because I know we got to move on, but what I love so much is that it's one of those games, and again, not the only game to do this, but it does it so well and earns it. It's one of those games where they just perfectly nail that feeling where everyone else in the building seems to be okay but you.
Yeah,
everyone else is like, oh yeah, okay, all right, whatever, and they just roll with it. They just roll with it, and you're like, how are you rolling with, like, the main character is such a good straight man to all this stuff because he's just like, what you know, and it's great. They really nail that feeling, so you really the entire time are on edge and feeling like, I don't understand what are the rules of this universe, you know.
And there is and I've noticed this with some other indie games. There is a sort of weird tension and like kind of horror to the crappier graphics, right? Like the 8-bit 16-bit sort of thing, like the abstraction there, where like you make something and you can't make it look exactly like what it is, so like your mind has to like kind of work to sort of fill out the details of that, and like obviously you make it the scariest shit you can imagine for yourself, like automatically because brains suck. Like that kind of stuff I really enjoy too, where it's like, okay, it's not super hyper realistic, but it's not what I'm used to seeing with games that are like this. You know, I'm used to like happy colors, you know, happy fun time, jump around, and this is not that.
Yeah.
So moving on to the next title. This one's kind of interesting. So the next game is called The Horror of Salazar House. Just little warning here on this one. There are some, I guess I should say that there are a couple jump scares in Yuppie Psycho, but it much more earns it. It's much more of a feeling of dread. It's definitely not known for that. It's not like a FNAF kind of deal. The Horror of Salazar House does lean a little more into that side of it, but as we'll get into, it's not something that I think is too insane. So this game was developed by Maldo19, Ignacio Maldonado from Chile. And it's digital only. It first started on itch.io. I played it on Steam. It was released in 2020. This game is basically, if you take an 8-bit graphic adventure, if you think of the old Kemco MacVenture games, so Deja Vu, Uninvited, Shadowgate, incredibly, like you will get it right away. Like when you see the UI and everything, it instantly looks super similar. Even the chip tune it's the same chip and it sounds the same. But right away you're gonna know that this person kind of tried to go for something different because it's this monochromatic, hyper stylized blood red visuals, these neon visuals in it. And so back to the gameplay, it is, has a lot of quirks of the genre, so your mileage may vary. Some people might not be into it. There's some trial and error gameplay when you're choosing, options, when you're moving around. There's some immediate death stuff. At times there's some weird adventure game logic, all that stuff. So again, some people are into that, some people aren't. What I like about this game, though, is that it uses this kind of limited control scheme, and it uses the kind of hide and seek approach that modern stuff like Amnesia, Outlast are using. And it uses it in this 8-bit space. Now, again, I'm sure there's some people listening who go, I hate that shit. Like, I'm not into hiding. And that's fair. Like, I don't know if this one's going to be for you, but I'm not even really into games like that, but I think in this case, because it's this bite-sized indie game, because it has the style, I was still really intrigued. And what I love is that when you hide, you have to use the mouse to control where you're looking, and it controls this little slit in either the trunk or the closet that either moves vertically or horizontally. And you can actually see the pixelated monster walking outside sometimes, and it's great. It's really, really well done. It's super responsive because it's all done with the mouse. And so where this gets inspiration from is what we call giallo. So if anybody doesn't know what giallo is, it's basically a term used for these highly stylized, very nightmarish, surreal, trippy horror films that I think were popularized in basically in Italy in the late 60s and 70s, stuff like Suspiria, Deep Red,
Midsommar,
and eventually
probably.
Yeah, and eventually in video games like Clock Tower. Okay, so that's a really good analog. As soon as people hear Clock Tower, it's like, yeah, it's that. It's this kind of like super trippy, very disturbing. A lot of the characters, a lot of the what's the word I'm looking for? A lot of the creatures and the problems in it, they all stem from some creepy, perverted, weird person or dark, family psychological trauma or something. It's that kind of jam. It's much more about style than substance, but in a good way. And this game it's short too. I just want to tell anybody right now, this doesn't get my lock of the week, but it is recommended if it sounds like something that you'd be into. It's short. You can pretty much see everything the game has to offer in like an hour or an hour and a half. I'm gonna sound like a jerk, but you might want to play it with the guide, because it's not that beating the game is difficult or that you can't figure out the puzzles, but if you want to see all of the endings and kind of see everything and the lore, it's just probably going to save you a bunch of time and headache, unless you really like these kind of games. And like, if you like loved PT and playing it for hours and hours trying to figure out how to actually beat it, then maybe you'll dig it. But if you more just play this for the cinematic experience, you might want to just play with a guide and kind of see what it does.
Yeah.
So did either of you guys get a chance to check this out, and what did you think about it?
Arnie?
No, I noped out of this one immediately.
Oh, okay.
Fuck, too spoopy. Listen, it 3 strikes against it. 1, made by a person who speaks Spanish. I know how fucking sick we are. 2, the limited graphics creep me the fuck out. I've already explained that. 3, the gameplay loop of having some like monster or demon chasing you. No, I don't like Resident Evil 3. I don't want to play Clock Tower. No, I don't want to be chased. I don't want to be weak.
These are all 100% fair takes and fair things to think. Absolutely. Yeah. So, Paul, I assume you didn't get to check it out?
No, I played it. I finished it.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's not long.
Yeah.
And like here, I mean, look, there are issues with it.
Yes.
I don't know if I'm gonna look back on my experience with it fondly per se, but it was $3 and it was an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, like, really, what am I going to complain about? It's a very different game, and you're absolutely like, it totally called back to Shadowgate, which is exactly what I wanted from it. I wanted to play Shadowgate, and it gave me that, and it gave me a little bit more too. Much like with Yuppie Psycho, and I mean, like, every game we're going to talk about here, the sound design's really good.
Yes, 100%.
That like 8-bit chiptune kind of stuff really works here. The screams in this game are like, you know, ear piercing, just like, ugh.
Yeah.
And the story's really cool. Like, once you kind of unlock all the endings and you see what's going on, which, by the way, I didn't do. You know, if I'm going to go into the issues with the game, that hide and seek stuff.
Yeah.
So basically the goal of the game is to kind of like complete 4 missions, so to speak, right? They're not outlined as such, but for all intents and purposes, that's what they are.
Yeah.
And as you complete each mission, the ghost that chases you around Salazar House that you hide from becomes more and more aggressive.
Yeah.
Fuck no.
And so what I found, was after I completed the 3rd mission and going up to the 4th, the ghost, for me anyway, kind of ceased to become scary.
Yeah.
And just became annoying.
Yeah.
The ghost was up my ass all the time. And even if I was hiding in the closet or hiding in a chest, the ghost would be like, haha, found you, fuck you, and then stab me and I lose health. You know, like, it used to be that I could hide from the ghost and it would move on. But now the ghost just like knew where I was at all times. Yeah. So I wasn't sure if I was doing something wrong or if that's what the game was actually supposed to do.
Yeah.
But it just became where I couldn't peacefully, or at least semi-peacefully, figure out how to complete the last mission without the ghost just, you know, taking me up the ass every time. So, you know, that... what I did eventually was I just kind of went to YouTube and figured it out, because I just could not deal with the ghost anymore. And that's, you know, that's kind of really my only knock against it. Yeah. You know, there's some like English translation stuff in there that's some misspellings, but like, whatever, man. Like, it's made by a dude. So, you know, it's not a big deal.
Play it in Spanish, everyone.
I wish you could. I wish you could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also, Mike, did you notice at the beginning of the game in the library, when you look through the books in the library, it's basically like these Cole's Notes descriptions and the titles of all his favorite games.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
that was pretty cool.
Really funny. Like, and it's 100%. Everything you just said is 100% fair. Like, for me, this is absolutely a recommend. If you're kind of curious about it and you know, like, or you're into the genre, I can't like be like, oh, you know, this isn't like Yuppie Psycho where I'm like, you know, it's a wholehearted recommend, because they're, you know, exactly like you're saying, Paul, like this is structured like those Amnesia games and like Slender Man. It's essentially like a Slender Man kind of game where you're trying to find these things, except there's just adventure game logic and a bit more lore and a bit more story and gameplay and depth added to all of it. And I mean, I think I played it. I think there's an easy mode, and I just played through it on that after a while because I was just like,
I should have done.
Because I was just like, whatever, man. And and it's the thing is like, oh man, I can't believe I'm bringing up Soma. We're not supposed to bring up Soma. If you play it, I'm just gonna tell you before they drag me away, kicking and screaming. If you play Soma, play on easy.
Yeah,
where's the where's the
hook that we can like,
don't play on normal, play on easy. Like for a lot of these games, just play on easy. I just got
it, by the way.
Oh my god, dude.
Cool.
Oh, no, yeah. I don't want to talk about Soma. We can't talk about Soma. I want to, but we can't. But basically, like it's those issues are totally issues in it, and it's not. And again, it's really gonna make or break whether it's something you want to spend time on, because I 100% agree. I'm the same way. Like as soon as this starts happening a bunch of times, you're like, okay, this is, kind of tedious. And if you're dealing with kind of extreme adventure game logic at the same time, running around this house, like it just kind of, it's not a great not a great combination. But again, it's the kind of thing where, hey, if it was not one guy by himself, if it was not, a 1 hour game for $3, you'd maybe have more of a so what I'm looking for, more of a soapbox to stand on to go, why are you thinking this? But in this case, it's just like, dude, he just, this guy made something really cool. Yep. It's short, it's fun. You can see you can have a lot of fun with it and see the stuff that you want to see and just kind of get in and get out. And it has a lot more polish and atmosphere and style than so much other stuff out there.
It's got a personality for sure.
Like, and also just to say, there is a demo. There is a demo you can play on Steam. It's kind of this opening prequel chapter, and I think it nails it. I think it sets up exactly what the game is and what you're getting into. So play the demo, and if you're into that, like, give it a shot. Like, dude, throw the guy some money, man.
The 8-bit animations of the monsters, or like, or the parts where you get the instant deaths, which I think are kind of cool. I like the instant deaths, but some of the animations in it they're really cool, really well done. Like to take those kind of graphics and basically create FMV out of it. Nice.
Really, really cool. Okay, so that takes care of the Horror of Salazar House. We're going to take a little break, and when we come back, we're getting into Carrion. And we're back, Region Free Gamers, the podcast fluent in gaming. We've been talking about indie game developers making horror games that are inspired and paying homage to both indie horror films as well as genres in particular. We just finished talking about Yuppie Psycho as well as the Horror of Salazar House. Now we're going to talk about another indie called Carrion. Carrion, I feel like I never get the name right. It's Carrion, right?
Dude.
Carrion.
Carrion.
Carrion's what you take onto a plane.
Carrion, my wayward son.
Carrion's. That's how I remember. I think Boston, wayward son, Carrion. Got it.
No, wrong. Kansas, not Boston.
Oh, you're right. I'm
These
screwed.
Stupid.
I am
Chicago,
wrong location-based band, sir.
Dude, I am fired. You guys don't see it, but Paul is like just bringing his finger across his neck right now. He's like, that's it, you fucked up. 3 strikes. You didn't fucking say it was Kansas. So anyway, Carrion. So Carrion, developed by Phobia Game Studios. So these guys, some of these are ex-developers who created a game that you might have heard of called Butcher. They're from Warsaw. Butcher is
I know, right?
Can't play this game now.
So Butcher. So wait, what?
No, if there is a type of person that knows about how to make like scary ass horror shit.
Oh right,
it's,
yeah.
Spanish speaking people and the Polish.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. And in this one, they nail it. So Butcher, just a quick note about Butcher, because if you're interested in that too, Butcher is basically take Doom, make it 2D, and then make it extremely like low resolution pixel look.
Yep.
That's Butcher. Yep. So if that sounds good to you, do it. It's because it's awesome.
I almost bought that. It's on sale on PSN right now, actually.
Yeah,
I almost bought it, but then I was like, this looks too scary.
It's amazing. Well, no, because in Butcher, fittingly enough, in Butcher, just like in Carrion, you are the monster. Oh, you are absolutely the monster.
Now I'm more interested.
So let's talk about it. So Carrion is digital on Switch. It's also on Steam, PS4, and Xbox One now. And there is a physical version on Switch brought to you by Special Reserve Games.
Yep, I think by Mega Diamond holographic, very hard to find games.
There's a crazy, they have a side note. They have a crazy special edition that has this like almost... You know the Necronomicon Book of the Dead from Evil Dead? It looks like that, and it's like a case that you put the game in. It looks kind of cool. Awesome. It looks awesome. So this was released in 2020. Side note, the OST was by Chris Velasco, and I just wanted to call that out because I checked his Wikipedia, and this dude has worked on like everything. It's like he's one of these composers who's worked on like 10 million other games. So if you're curious about that kind of thing, check it out. So Carrion it's a 16-bit kind of style. I mean, I say that loosely. You guys know what I mean. It's a 2D platformer action game. It's been called a Metroidvania. I think it's a very light Metroidvania. Like there are collectibles off the beaten path, and you can kind of backtrack to get things, and it's a very like swooping kind of interconnected path. But I don't know if I'd call it like, it's definitely light. It's very light. So, and also by the way, a game you can crush in like 3-4 hours if you just kind of go. So I know all of us here love ourselves some short quality games, and this is one. So like I said before, this is reverse horror. You are the monster. Okay. This isn't the first time that something like this has been done, but Carrion, to me, it takes it to the next level by making you a non-humanoid blob of tentacles and teeth. And it controls exactly like you think it would. There's no gravity for this monster. It's just with its tentacles, you can just move in any dimension, anywhere you want, kind of as fast as you want. It feels, the controls are kind of awkward to get started to. It feels kind of loose and slippery, but that's kind of the point. Like, it kind of reinforces the fact that you are this thing that we cannot control or contain, and we are not meant to understand what you are. Like, you are a monster. And so I think it really works well in this case. It does take getting used to. So it is something to kind of watch out for. I'm probably making it sound worse than it is, but it is something to kind of to think about. But basically, it's a game where you play the monster. Like, you are the thing. Except, like, you're the thing. I don't even know why. I don't even know why I say anything else. Like, you're the thing. So basically, it's incredibly gory. It's very violent. I've never played a game that so effectively makes you feel terrifying and like you're terrifying people, because as you're going around stealthily, if you want, or guns blazing, tentacles blazing, as you're sort of snaking through vents and grabbing people and dragging them to their doom and eating them, they are screaming bloody murder.
Dude,
and it sounds terrifying.
Like, oh my god.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so effective at making you feel like, dude, they are terrified of you. Like, they're shitting their pants, and you're just like moving around. And now that doesn't mean the game is easy. I wouldn't call it difficult either. There's a learning curve, and it's kind of tricky at times, but it's, some of the later enemies aren't pushovers, and you have to play kind of strategically and use these use these abilities that you gain. You kind of gain this ability to charge. You gain this ability to send out like 7 tentacles at once. And the sound design and the visual feedback is just incredible. I love it because as I'm talking, I'm like, yeah, this game is cool. Like, I really recommend it. It's awesome. But as I talk about it more and more, I'm like, dude, this game is sick. This game's sweet. I'm like pumping myself up as I talk about it. And the other thing I do want to call out the score. And the reason I do that is because I don't know. I'm assuming it was on purpose because, again, Chris Velasco seems like a guy who's worked on 10 million things, so he knows what he's doing. But the score is this mix of, and stop me if you can already tell me what movies this makes you think of, but it's this mix of, in quiet parts, this very ambient kind of synth work with very sort of synthetic, low kind of percussion. But when it gets kicking, all of a sudden there's more tribal beats, tribal percussion, more like a sense of kind of strings coming in and something that's a little more harsh. And when I was playing it, I was like, I'm playing Predator, man. Like, I'm in Predator, and yes, there's the synth hints, so it's the thing, but this is Predator, and there's even levels that look like a jungle that are, and I'm just like, oh my God, like they nailed it. Like this feeling of like, the whole time I'm just thinking like, oh God, these soldiers are sitting there and they're just like, there's something out there. and it ain't no man. And I'm like, yeah, it's me, baby. Like, I'm
it's
out
me,
there,
motherfucker.
Yeah, and so, obviously in terms of the film influences, monster films with excessive gore and body horror, The Fly, The Thing, even in little bits of Hellraiser with kind of how gory it is,
say
Predator.
Say less, Mike.
Yeah, Predator.
Oh, so good.
Predator, obviously, Alien, all this stuff. I mean, if it's not apparent already, I love this game. I still think Yuppie Psycho gets the lock of the week, but Carrion is like the lock of the week for like a safer bet that I think, dude, as long as you're into this kind of stuff, like you cannot go wrong with this game.
Yeah.
Like
Yuppie Psycho is like the padlock. This is like the locker combination lock.
Yeah. And but yeah, it's just fantastic. It's well designed. It's the kind of, again, it's light Metroidvania, so when you're playing it, don't sweat like missing things. Like, it doesn't add anything to the ending. Do it if you want to, like if it's fun, and it is fun, like to find all the little collectibles. And when I say that, I mean like there's like 10, that are off the beaten path. It's not like there's hundreds. So like do that if you want, but if you don't, like, don't sweat it, man. Like, just play through the game and
it
just
doesn't
like
look like
annihilate.
that's the focus at all.
It's not. Yeah. It's not. It's like very not.
It looks to me like the focus is just controlling this monster who has a very unique looking kind of control scheme compared to other Metroidvania games. Actually, let me ask you, because I haven't played it. I've only seen it. Yeah. And man, I wish I had seen this game sooner. Yeah. And I think you've mentioned it in Discord too, but like, fuck, man, if I looked up every single game you guys mentioned in Discord, I wouldn't have a life anymore. Yeah. But like, what's the better control scheme here? Because like, if a game is available on the Switch, I automatically default to the Switch. Yeah. Right. Especially kind of like a low res 2D game like this. I know, we can talk about some Switch games that perform poorly, but for the most part, they perform well. Yeah. But like, when I see the way this game controls, like, is it better with mouse and keyboard, or is the controller good enough here?
I'm gonna have to plead ignorance here, because I haven't tried it. I haven't tried it on PC with mouse and keyboard. I haven't seen, to be honest, it's the kind of game that even reviews I've seen of on PC with mouse and keyboard, people have been saying, yeah, it's a little weird to get to grips to. It's kind of, I think it's just the nature of the game. And I think it's good to just play it and you sort of get the hang of it. But what's interesting is also that when you kind of wrap your head around it, it's really and this isn't a shocking thing to say, it makes sense, it's the fine movements. Like, it's the tiny movements that are kind of tricky at first, because you're this monster and you're flying all over the place. But the thing is by number one, that makes sense. Like, number one, it makes sense. Like, it feels intentional. Yeah. And number two, by the time you get to the end of the game, you realize that you don't really need to be that subtle in this game at all. Like it is about being, by the end, not to spoil too much, by the end, you're massive, okay?
Yeah.
And you are just barreling through windows and walls, and everyone is screaming, and you're eating them, and you're just this force of nature, like the Wall of Blood in The Shining. Like it's you're not going to stop and go, oh, but I need to put this little tentacle. It's like, no, man, you're a steamroller, dude. Like you just go. And so
okay, good.
This game sounds like it scales like Katamari Damacy.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. It definitely, like, don't get me wrong, like you don't turn into a giant, or it's not like Mutant Blob's Attack where by the end you're swallowing the planet. But it has a tremendous sort of sense of scale and weight to the monster while still feeling kind of very fluid. And and honestly, after an hour or so, you're not even going to think about it. Like it's just going to be, you're just going to be.
Yeah, I'm very happy with your description, Mike, because the one thing I love games that do this, like whenever it's you're the monster game, I'm like, I want to try this. But my sort of like issue with that genre as a whole is that it's a very delicate balance of like making you just invincible.
Yes.
And like making you so shitty that like it's a pain in the ass to even get going. And so like I like the being invincible part, but I understand that like it works best if you have to work your way up to it. Yeah. But don't start me off as like a little grub or something that somebody's just gonna step on. You know what I mean? Like
no.
But this game sounds like it sort of works its way up. No.
People
you're
are really
fuck off like big monster scary.
Yeah. No. This thing is scary like right off the bat, and even I can't get tired of just looking at the monster. The monster design is so cool. Yeah. Like, and watching it move. Yeah. Because it moves by like it moves by like reaching out with its tentacles. Yeah. And like pulling itself with its tentacles. But imagine that, but like over and over, like almost like a dog running around where each foot kind of propels it forward. Yeah. And it looks so smooth and so cool. And oh my God, man. Like I was looking at this and I was like, oh my God, this is just the coolest looking thing. Yeah. I can't wait to play it. Yeah. I really wish I had played it sooner. I'm actually like genuinely pissed off because like, again, it just looks so fucking cool, man. This monster and the people, like the way the people react.
Oh yeah,
not just the sound, but like also their kind of ragdoll nature. Like when the monster like tears a door off its hinges and throws the fucking door at these people, and the people just like eat the door and they're like tossed backwards and they ragdoll, and it's like, oh my God, this monster's awesome, man. Yeah.
Speaking of scary movie moments, can't believe I didn't mention the blood testing scene in The Thing, man. God.
Oh, God.
So fucking good.
What a classic.
And now that when you said it's like The Thing, now that's what I'm picturing as like the monster for this is like that like giant thing that like pops up out of the blood.
So what's interesting is, and this isn't a spoiler because you can see it in the trailers and stuff, but you can actually one of the abilities you have is that you can actually take over people's bodies. Ooh. So you can actually, you guys can see that. Better. So you can actually use your tentacle and like, and go into somebody, and they're like, and then you can control them and fight as them with guns. And then if they're the last one alive, you explode out of them.
Oh, incredible!
Oh man,
so it's those little so details good. Like that that just really put it over the top, right?
Yeah. It's really. I had so much fun playing it. And it even has for the value hounds out there, they have free DLC. They have a free expansion. It's a Christmas themed. I'm not kidding. It's a Christmas themed free expansion. I don't think it's quite as strong as the main campaign. It's about an hour long, but hey,
it's a Christmas expansion.
It's free and it's Christmas.
Yeah,
and it's
exactly.
It's so much fun, and also for people who are kind of like, this doesn't bog you down with story or anything, does it? And it's like, absolutely not. Like, there is.
Good. Thank God.
There's enough. There's
Yeah, yeah.
enough. There's enough, and I won't say how they do it, but there's enough that it sets the tone, and there's some atmosphere and some context, and that's cool. But again, think Predator. Think the original Predator. You
There's
know,
not codex scenes with like some guy being like, blob monster, please stop.
No,
and you're
no
like,
fat.
"Rawr."
No, zero fat on this bad boy. Zero, which is funny
Please
considering
stop.
what the fuck he looks at.
Sir, please desist.
Please, monster. Please, this is
We have issued you a cease and desist order.
We are a civilized society. It's but yeah, Carrion. It's sick. Maybe I should change it to the lock of the week, man, because this game is sick. I had a lot of fun playing it. The next one I want to get into is a game that's kind of near and dear to me. It's called Observation.
Yes, let's do it.
So Observation, which was developed by No Code. No Code are from Scotland. They recently, well, not recently, I should say, although it did recently come out. They did the game Stories Untold,
Fuck, love that game.
Which recently had versions that came out on PS4 and as well as Switch. And that might seem odd to people who know what Stories Untold is.
Yep.
I don't want. I
played it.
sort of,
I played it on PS4, and I
played it on PC. I played Stories Untold on PC.
Yeah, I can see how the experience would be enhanced by playing it on PC. Yeah, especially like the level I'm talking about.
Yes, yes,
but it still played very well on PS4. Yeah. I'll say that.
It's not something to avoid if you don't have a way to play it on PC. Honestly, Stories Untold is one of the we've been talking about games to go in spoiler free. Stories Untold, is besides maybe Soma, I can't think of another game where it is. More important. Like, do not watch a single thing. Like, go into it completely blind. And it's amazing. I don't want to get on it, but oh my God, please go play it.
I think I talked about it on What Have You Been Playing? That you should not listen to until after you've played the game.
I sometimes put Steam reviews up because I can't help it, and I just sort of like say crap. My highest rated Steam review, which is still nothing, by the way, but my highest rated one is from Stories Untold, because all I say is, I can't believe so many idiots are putting in spoilers to the 4 episodes of this game inside the reviews. Stop reading, just go play it. It's amazing. Please just go play it. And it's like all these people who are like because they're just like, don't stop saying what happens in the games. You know, but anyway, sorry, tangent. No Code made Stories Untold. They're actually, a lot of them are ex-developers from Alien Isolation. They previously worked at Creative Assembly on Alien Isolation.
Right on.
And which when you know that, it makes 1,000% sense, because all of their games are first-person games, high realism, high fidelity sort of look. In this case, Observation, digital on Steam and on PS4 and Xbox One. It was released in 2019. So like I said, high fidelity, high realism, first-person adventure game. It's set on a space station. And you play as a drone. You play as an AI drone, an artificial intelligence. You're able to communicate with your crew. You can switch between cameras at the space station, and you can kind of control other drones, okay, through that. So basically, you're HAL, okay? Like you're HAL. Yeah, and,
very much so.
And so the game is relatively grounded. You know, it's kind of like, I guess it's like Gravity in the sense that it's pretty grounded. I'm sure there's still liberties taken, but it's very grounded. The space station looks like you'd think this is what a real space station would look like. And honestly, it probably is.
Probably.
And the ways to interact, and it's very grounded in the sense that it's very practical. Like the ways that, sure, there's some video game logic and like, oh, touch this panel and do this thing. But none of it is like, duct tape this thing with this. Like everything is very like, no, like you need to go through this. There's a duct here. You need to go through that duct. You need to, Yeah. And what I love is that it's the same level of quality and immersion, that high level of realism that you found in Stories Untold, but also in Alien Isolation. Like Alien Isolation, rightfully so, was touted because they nailed that retro future green monitor Apple PC computer look that the original Alien had. Like there's a rounded version of this is what it would look like, in real life when it happens. And they nail that here too with the UI, the user interfaces on all the computers. They look just, they're simple to navigate, but they just look appropriate. Like everything looks like it makes sense.
Yep.
Which makes it way better when everything goes fucking insane. And I'm not gonna spoil it, but everything goes insane. But anyway, the gameplay it's very disorienting by design. Okay, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's for everybody, but think about it. You play a drone flying in 3D space in outer space. Okay, so yes, it's gonna be disorienting.
Yeah, somebody needs to make a wireless version of that giant PS1 analog control you used to play Descent. That's what I want to play this on.
Yeah. And so anyway, it's claustrophobic, lots of psychological horror, lots of some little cosmic horror bits.
Yep.
And to me, this is all callbacks to kind of AI gone amok or cosmic horror titles. 2001, obviously, Event Horizon to some extent, but don't get me wrong, it never gets that insane. Stuff like Solaris, if you've ever seen it, or Moon. That level of isolation, of surrealness, of oddity is happening. And I love this game so much. I will say the performance on PS4 when I first played it wasn't great. There were definitely some hitches.
That's a shame.
Because they're using such high resolution textures and models with everything. Yep. So maybe PC is your best bet here. It might also be your best bet in terms of controls with mouse and keyboard. But don't sleep on it. If it sounds like something you're even remotely interested in, go in super blind. Trust me, it's amazing.
Can't wait.
I couldn't believe it when I saw it. I couldn't believe it because I had never even heard of it, Mike, until you brought it up.
Yeah.
And I mean, there was only so much time before the episode to play all these games, so I didn't get around to playing Observation.
Yeah.
And I really, I kind of wish I had, like, out of all of them. And I mean, you heard me talk about Carrion. Like, I was fucking hyped for Carrion, but Observation more than pretty much any game on this list that I haven't played, I'm most hyped to play, and I will. Like, it's so unique looking, and and I mean, not to harp on and on about how good it looks, but like, it looks really fucking good. The level of realism, and like you said, the fidelity. Like, I swear to God, man, there were parts where I was watching where I'm like, did they switch this to FMV?
Yes.
Like, I literally thought that. Like, did they switch this to FMV? The only parts where it kind of takes, or where I felt like the immersion was taken away a little bit, is when they actually show the main character's face.
Yeah.
And then it's like, the kind of typical CG rendering of a human face, which is never great. That's probably going to be the last frontier for CG rendering. But like, anyway.
Yeah. From the trailer, this one caught me. I don't usually watch trailers. I watched some for this, and I had heard of this. I think I talked to you about it before, Mike, because you reminded me of what this game was called. Because all I remembered was like, you play like a computer, and you like basically are like Hal from 2001. And you were like, I know exactly what you're talking about. It looks fucking cool, and it's like a nice concept, and they execute on it very well. I mean, having played Stories Untold now, I'm even more excited to play this. I can't wait till they port it to the Switch and Paul buys it there. It doesn't. It runs like a frame a second. I won't be doing
that. No. I do have other systems, I swear.
For people who have played Stories Untold and who are, maybe they didn't super gel with that, I would still recommend Observation. I would still say, man, check it out. Like, if you think it's cool, because I've seen other reviewers say that who didn't quite click with Stories Untold, whether because of some of the puzzles, got in the way of the pacing for them or whatever. But Observation is much less about that. It's much more about the cinematic experience. There are puzzles, there are things to figure out, but it's much more just about going through this story and seeing what happens. And oh my God, you ever want to see what happens? Like,
how long is it?
It looks entirely unique.
How long would you say it is?
honestly, I'd say like you could probably knock it out in about 3 or 4 hours if you just kind of like go, in the same way.
That's awesome.
It's getting hot in here.
Yeah, I know. In the same way as Stories Untold, if you don't get hung up on too much of the puzzles and the navigation, like it's really not that long, and it's packed. Like it's one of these games where, again, like they heighten that sense of realism. Like the ambience, the audio, the sound design is just
fantastic,
unreal. I mean, Arnie, you played Stories Untold. It was insane in Stories Untold, and in this, it's insane. Like it's so well done. So yeah, sorry, it's a glow up, man. I'm freaking out. Like I can't be.
But
like
how could you not?
No, that's the thing. I gotta be honest. If you talk to any of my friends in the past couple of years, they'll tell you, like, if it's like, oh yeah, one time I asked Mike if he had any recommendations, I was like, play Stories Untold, play Observation. Like, please, I need someone to talk about it with. I need someone to talk about it with. Like, we need other people to play it. Oh my God, please, But yeah, so I can't sort of say any more than that. It doesn't get the lock of the week because I know some people might not be into this kind of more atmospheric storytelling, but it comes insanely highly recommended. It is not just a walking sim. There's a lot more going on in it. Yeah. And if any of this sounds cool, do it, please. And on that note, let's take another break before I get too hot under the collar. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about Oxenfree. We are back once more talking about indie video game developers, the games they have made that have analogs or are homages to independent filmmakers making awesome horror movies, genre pieces. We've already talked about a bunch. Now we're going to talk about Oxenfree. I gotta be honest, Oxenfree's been around a while and is, definitely something a lot of people have heard of, so it might not need too much of an introduction. But anyway, developed by Night School, they're from California. Their most recent game was After Party, that they made after that. I didn't actually play that one. Heard mixed things about it, but I think, definitely a different kind of tone. I think they went for much more of a comedy type thing with that one. And I didn't even know until a little while ago, but they totally announced the sequel to Oxenfree.
Yep.
They did. Which is coming soon. And
Yep.
So that's coming soon as well. Very excited for that. This game is available basically everywhere, like on a million different things.
Yeah.
Physically, you can get it on Switch and PS4 via limited run, but basically digital, you can get it almost anywhere. It's kind of insane. I'm not even going to bother listening.
I got it on itch.io for one of those big free bundles they did.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So this originally came out in 2016, so it's been out for a minute. It's a 2D side-scrolling adventure game, very dialogue driven. I mean, essentially just dialogue driven. There's lots of great voice acting, lots of great script work. It walks that fine line to me of being, this is kind of what kids would sound like of this age, but also, manages to kind of, it's still stuck in some of the tropes that they need to move a story forward.
Yeah.
But to me, it sounds a lot more natural than so many other, I don't want to get into it because I don't want to get too salty, but there's so many other games that I think people are like, oh, it's great because it really sounds like, teenagers or college kids. And I'm like, no, it doesn't. That's not how they talk, so.
I mean, we're getting to the age where we won't be able to say that anymore.
True. I guess so. Yeah.
Idea.
So basically, what I love about this game is that it's basically like Scooby-Doo except terrifying. So some high school kids go to an island to sleep over, and it's kind of a tradition. Okay, they go there in their small town, and basically they find something. And I'm not going to say what it is. I really, but they find something, okay? And they stumble on something, and it's pretty intense. So there's a lot of callbacks in this game. You're going to feel, to films where adolescents and teenagers are put in, I love the way I put this, I'm not going to lie. They're put in very dangerous and terrifying situations, but everyone seems okay with that. So stuff like the Goonies, the Gate, the Explorers, that vibe of like, okay, I guess we're just going with this,
That's kind of what I thought it was, even before I read your outline, was like, oh, it's like if the Goonies were in a horror movie.
Yes,
first thing I thought of when I played it. Yeah.
And so Oxenfree, they're obviously a little bit older in it, and it's a little bit grittier. It's not quite as, for young kids. So it's almost on what I would call Lost Boys territory. It's
you and me are on the same wavelength, Mike.
I know. It scares me a lot. So
I know you don't want to be in my poison brain.
I don't want to be in your mind. So anyway, it's a unique. I say unique, but it's not that it hasn't kind of been done before, but the dialogue tree system is really intuitive and it's really simple. Yep. And it basically is just according to the face buttons, especially on a standard controller, it's really simple. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, each of the buttons each of the dialogue options corresponds with a face button. Yep. You press it. It does have an impact on what's happening. I think I think they walk that fine line where it's like, yes, it has an impact. No, don't worry. It doesn't change everything so much that you need to replay this a million times, or you can if you want, but you don't. It's just enough that you feel like there's an impact to the character arcs in the story, but not so much that you feel like you're missing out. Like you feel like you're missing something. You can really play it just how you want to play it. Just react how you want to react. Like don't kind of worry about it. And the puzzles are organic in the sense that everything is based on the lore. Everything is based on stuff that you find in game. And essentially, what I love most about this game is I got to say, like, in some ways, like, playing through it, there's moments that are sort of surprisingly really surreal and kind of terrifying and disturbing. And it has that ability that we've already talked about, that tonal switch where it'll be very Scooby-Doo, I know what you did last summer, like, like high schoolers kind of messing around. And then all of a sudden, like, shit gets real. Yeah. Like, shit gets really real. And it's like, oh, like, what? Yeah. What's that? Sort of thing. And honestly, I don't, again, not going to spoil it, but, one of the best endings for a game like this that I can kind of imagine, where it 100% earns it. It completely earns what it does. And it leads itself to playing the game again to kind of see what might change or what might happen in a really cool, in a very cool organic feeling way. And I don't want to say any more than that, but like to me, it's the perfect representation of this kind of vibe of this Stranger Things, X-Files kind of eerie Indiana for the deep cut kids. That real vibe, like, it just absolutely nails it. But most importantly, maybe most importantly, and I'm being semi-facetious, man, the characters, with one exception, and it's kind of the point of the character, they're not annoying. They're great. Like, you want to listen to them, you want to get to know them, you want to hang out with them. And the way that especially the main two characters interact off each other, one depending on the things you say, it's great. Like, I think they nail it. And I cannot endorse glowingly enough the voice acting talent that they got. And the script writing is amazing. It's really, really good. Yeah. So, have either of you guys tried this game? Have you guys checked it out? Arnie, I'll start with you. What did you think?
I finished it. I loved it, man. Like, it really is, aside from everything else, like, if you go and you look at videos or pictures or whatever, and you look at the graphics and you're like, I don't know if this is for me, just play it. Just play it. The writing is superb. The storytelling is excellent. Like, you'll forget all about it the second you start playing it, because like I wasn't too sure how I felt about the visual presentation of it. Like, it really works for the horror segments of it and stuff, but all the build up before that is like but the characters just shine, man, and the writing is excellent. Like, I will say, it suffers from the same problem that like the multiple dialogue option games usually suffer from, which is like, here's a summary of what you're gonna say if you pick this option.
Yes, yeah,
and then you pick
true.
it and it's like 3
That's
sentences
true.
and you're like, oh my god, like, okay.
Yeah,
but there was
that's
very few times where I picked an option and I was like, that didn't make any sense, or like, that's not something like this character would say. It all like flows very well. And the voice work, as you said, is excellent. There's a lot of like audio themes to this game, like, so headphones preferred. Like, the audio design in this game is very, very good. I had to play a lot of it muted, so I was very sad. Yeah, but it was excellent. I mean, it's such a nice, and more than some of the other games that we've talked about here, like, Mike, you're absolutely right. It carries that like cinematicness to it. Like, it really does feel like one of those, like, it's Scooby and the Gang sort of movies. And obviously no spoilers, but the ending is like very well earned. It's sort of very deliberately and like successfully builds to that point. And when the spooky shit happens, you're like, oh, okay, like, the spooky shit is happening now. Like, the effects are really cool, and the way they've like designed a lot of that stuff really works. So this is my lock of the week, baby.
I love that you. I'm glad you brought up, because I didn't really get into the visual, the art direction and the aesthetic, but absolutely, like, I'm not gonna the bad thing. Okay, the bad things in the game. It's inspired. It's absolutely inspired. Kind of. It really feels like they had a motif. They had an idea. This abstract idea, and it really feels like it was like this Inception thing where they work from like, what are we trying to say? What does the thing have to look like? And then it all grew out from there, and everything feels kind of relevant. It feels just sort of inspired and at odds. They really nail this feeling of, this is not something of this world. This is something that is not supposed to belong here,
Yeah. There's like a huge juxtaposition between the kind of like dreamy, almost watercolor backgrounds and character design, and the very harsh, bright, angular, like antagonist. It's very striking. When it shows up, it looks really weird, weird, and it's just a simple fucking shape, but it just looks so out of place that it's quite scary.
And the audio, and again, the audio is fantastic. I mean, I don't think it's a spoiler. I don't think it's a spoiler, but like, one of the main mechanics that you might see in the trailers is, using a radio, using a dial,
and manipulating like tape decks and stuff. Like,
all that stuff. It's all part of it, and that's what. Again, it creates a really cohesive world. It really feels like a world and a place, and with a set of lore. But also, just like those movies, it's like, you don't have to worry about 10 million hours of backstory. You can still just experience it and like enjoy it. And me personally, Paul, I want to hear your take on it too, and get what you think. But for me personally, like, it's probably one of the easiest games to recommend out of all these. Like, it's just it's just like anybody can play this and get into it. It's not about jump scares. It's all about atmosphere. And honestly, like, I'm trying to think, but you could even, like, there are even, maybe not little kids, but I think like, adolescents, no problem playing this game, getting freaked out. Like, I think they'd be into it. So
that's probably the time you want to play it. Honestly, it probably if you're in like high school and stuff, it probably hits a little bit different than if you're,
Also impeccable artistic design and direction in terms of the UI too, and everything. It's just so clean. Like, everything is, I mean, granted, they're not dealing with very complex systems, so it better be all clean and everything works. But they do. They really nail it, and I'm super stoked, for this sequel, man. Like, I can't wait. It's gonna be great. Paul, you obviously played it. What did you think?
I finished it. I'm less excited for the sequel. I'm probably not going to play it.
Yep.
The game, I think it does so many things right. Like, the walk and talk is fantastic. Right? Like, actually doing something and listening to the story instead of just cutscene, right? Like, It's masterful, honestly, like what they've done with that. And the audio, again, like out of all the games we've talked about, and we're talking about how great the audio is, Oxenfree I think is the pinnacle. Like it really is. Between the voice acting, between the radio sound effects, the old radio clips, stuff from the war, and the music itself, which is some great tunes in this game.
Yes, yeah.
Like it's and of course the voice acting, like it's so good. But like, yeah, I don't know, man. For me, the characters were good. Like there's one character, and I understand there has to be a character who creates tension.
Yep.
Yeah.
But she was just such a giant dick. And like, it kind of took me out of it. I'm like, why is this person here? I wouldn't hang out with this person. I would just choose to do something else other than be on an island with this disgustingly disagreeable person.
Yeah. That's fair.
And there
still
was like
not my least
argument.
favorite character, honestly.
Yeah, me neither. But
Ren
is
is the worst. He sucks.
No, I love Ren.
Oh, fuck him.
And I disagree. You're wrong.
Jonas, number one boy.
Jonas, best
God.
boy.
I mean,
best boy.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Jonas is anyway. Whatever. We can't get into who's the husbando.
Right. Yeah.
But I'm Team Ren, so we'll just But like, and then there's an argument as well between two characters in the game that just came out of fucking nowhere.
Yeah.
Like a serious argument, and I was like, whoa, this is totally out of left field and kind of weird.
Yeah.
And and I know it sounds like I'm nitpicking, but like,
but it's big.
fair.
I mean,
It's
all
fair
that stuff is very integral to the story because
it
it's
really
all
is.
character driven.
Yeah.
and the ending I thought was really good. I liked the end of the game. I liked the ending, and then there's a twist, and I was like, fuck, man, why did you guys have to throw this twist in?
Disagree.
No.
Hard disagree on this. I think the twist makes it. The twist makes it.
No, I think the twist ruins it. I liked having everything wrapped up nicely with a bow and presented to me, and everybody's happy.
Nope.
Yeah.
I liked that at the end of the game they tell me how many people did the choices I did.
I didn't see that.
I forgot about that.
And I was a big giant normie. I did all the popular things because of course I did all the nice things. That's all I ever did in these fucking games.
Yeah,
is do the nice things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so look, I'm not saying it's still worthwhile, right? Like, again, these are almost every game we've talked about today, super, super low investment. The longest one's probably Yuppie Psycho.
Yep.
And
That's true.
Oxenfree, I think I did in like 4 hours, 4.5 hours, something like that. I did it over the course of 2 nights.
Yeah.
Right. I went to bed, took the Switch with me, went to bed early because we were in a cabin that weekend, funnily enough.
Mm-hmm.
And it was getting dark early, and so I just had a couple hours each night playing Oxenfree. Finished it up, and it was good. But yeah, I'm not as into it as you guys are.
Yeah, that's fair. That's okay. That's, I guess. Jokes. So the last one that we might go a little more in depth here is a little game. I'm so excited to talk about this. It's a little game called Puzzle Agent.
Yeah.
So Puzzle Agent was developed by Telltale. Whoa, everybody knows Telltale.
God, that was
California.
honestly, I saw that and I was like, this must be what kids felt when they saw LJN at the beginning of a game back in the day. No disrespect to anybody at Telltale. I'm what it ended up being, I was like, I would not have expected this if I had seen that it was Telltale right off the bat.
So basically, this is a digital release. You can get it on Steam. Apparently, you could have gotten it on PS3. Really? I haven't checked, but apparently it was on PS3, and it's on iOS. Yeah. And basically,
I could see this working very well on phones.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
This is it's a 2D point and click adventure puzzle game. And if you've played any of the other 2D Telltale games, especially like some of the ones they brought to the Wii, like the Strong Bad, Homestar Runner, point and click, and the Back to the Future one, I think maybe like it's no, not that one because that one uses 3D models. Sorry. Yep. Anyway, if it's something with 2D, it's using this same 2D Telltale engine. You can really see it clearly. Very bare bones. Point and click kind of stuff. It's mostly not adventure game logic, collecting items. It's way more just about talk to these people, click on this stuff to hear what they have to say, go through the dialogue options, click on this and do a puzzle. But where this game absolutely shines and where it just demolishes the opposition is the stuff it takes inspiration from and the story it tells and the characters it has. So picture in your mind, if you will, the game is called Puzzle Agent, Nelson Tethers Puzzle Agent, I guess I should say, inspired to me by the films of Stanley Kubrick, David Lynch, 100%. The Coen brothers. And if I was going to give you one sentence, okay, for this game, it's you take the kind of dry, surreal humor side of the Muppet Show, and then you put it in Fargo, and then you add X-Files. That's what this game is. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And
this is literally literally like, Paul, this is like, imagine if Professor Layton lived in Twin Peaks.
That's a really good way to put it.
That's actually kind of what I was thinking.
This is exactly, and you can tell from the second you start I only played like, I want to say about an hour or two of this game, and like immediately, as soon as you leave like the first like level, you're like, oh, I know exactly what this is, and I love it.
Yeah.
And so basically, like, it's so funny because also not because I don't want to spoil anything, but like, there's not much more I need to say. Yeah. Like, that's what's so funny. It's like it's this hand-drawn 2D art style. I apologize, I forget who the artist is, but it's very like simple, big, chalky lines, super expressive, very minimal, like think kind of like cartoons from the 50s and stuff like that. Like, it's very influenced by that kind of thing.
Do you remember the short, like, do you remember the Pink Panther? You remember the guy that always chases them with the mustache? He's like very short and he's completely white, like that guy.
That kind of stuff.
But like stretched out to be a tall person.
And so basically, if you take, with a couple exceptions, the puzzles have a pretty solid curve. I don't think some of them are a little too easy. Some of them are way too hard.
Yeah, the difficulty curve on the puzzle sort of like goes all over the place.
It's kind of all over, but there's no penalty story-wise to not getting things right or to trying things more than once. So like, it really is just about experiencing the incredible writing and voice acting and humor that's on display here, because all of the quirky characters, it really is exactly like we say. It's like Muppet Show beats X-Files and Fargo. Like, it really is like all the characters are hilarious and weird. But there's two things I really want to call attention to in this game. One is the insane musical score in it is unbelievable. So I know part of the score is done by Disaster Piece, and if anybody is into video game OSTs, Disaster Piece is now pretty famous. I think he's even working in movies now, but he's famous for doing the Hyper Light Drifter soundtrack, which is entirely ambient, synth-based, very dreamlike. It's probably one of my favorites.
It's very good.
This is nothing like it. This game is one of the most unsettling, striking, high string sounds, like just dissonant chords. It's terrifying, and it sets such a crazy ambience. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, yeah, but what you're saying sounds, like it'd be fun. And I'm like, it is. It's really funny, but we've been talking about tonal shifts the whole time now. This is the king. This is the apex. This game goes from being absolutely hilarious, like laugh at, oh my god, dude, what did he just say? That's too funny. This dry humor, to, oh my god, please shut the game off. I'm like, shut the game off. Like, it gets so tense at certain moments, even though it's the silliest thing in the world. Like, this isn't a spoiler. Like, if you look at the ads, there's gnomes. Okay, there's gnomes. Yeah. This game makes lawn gnomes terrifying. And I'm not even joking when I say that. I'm not. Like, it's so, and it's all because of the writing, the direction, the voice acting, and the music. And it's just, the ambience is incredible. And the last thing I'll say before I throw it over is that highly recommend this. But I will say that it kind of ends a little flat. It doesn't quite live up. By the time you finish it, it doesn't quite live up to it. There are two parts. So when I say finish it, I mean finishing the second part as well, because they're both totally sequential and linked. But it kind of ends and you're like, oh, okay. Like it doesn't quite have the kind of resolution that you were sort of hoping and wanted. And I'm sure part of that is by design and intentional, but I just don't think even knowing that it really hits as well as it should.
Yeah.
So
what's the length on this bad boy?
Oh man, like I would say an hour and a half for each of them.
Okay.
If you just kind of crush the puzzles. I think that like, but again, you know, just to say it's the ending's a little flat. There's not much payoff there. And also the weird difficulty curve. But besides that, like absolutely play it if it sounds like something you'd be into and you're into like puzzles.
It's $5, ladies and gentlemen. It's $5.
Yeah. That's the saving grace for it. Even for someone like me who I'm not a Professor Layton guy. I tried it, bounced off of it.
Do you hate joy? Just like just as a part of your personality, or
I played one and it was all like, hey man, can you bring the bridge down? I gotta get across this bridge. And the guy's like, I have 12 matchsticks. I need 10. And I'm like, man, shut the fuck up. Just put the fucking bridge down. You know, like just stuff like that.
You should both play the Professor Layton v Phoenix Wright game. That's probably when you'll enjoy a little bit more.
Does Phoenix Wright have objections to all his stupid puzzles? Because that's what I'm picturing.
Does he say objection and you can't overrule it until you tell me how many glasses of water I need to fill up this tank? And I'm like, fuck.
In order to sustain, you have to carry these 3 sheep over the bridge.
Oh, God.
But they have to be in a certain order.
There is a puzzle like that in Puzzle Agent. I'm not gonna lie. There's 100%. They 100% do the, you gotta
find out when the bomb was set off based
God.
on these 4 individuals and what they have to say.
Yeah. I mean, it's still good. I'm telling you, it's still good, but yeah.
Fuck you
Arnie,
guys.
so,
I love this kind of shit.
Yeah.
Like
Arnie,
any excuse to do a stupid word puzzle.
So Arnie, I know you played a little bit of it. Let us know what you think. What you think about it?
I mean, honestly, like I really enjoyed the little bit that I played. I have to, obviously, I'm gonna go back. I want to finish it, just because the aesthetic and the story beats are like, this is what I crave. Like I wish that more games did weird shit like this. Yeah. But it's nice whenever I can find one that sort of melds like 2 things that I really enjoy, which is like, it's just this, and we've talked about it before, it's this Twin Peaks effect, this like David Lynchian sort of vibe where all these things are here and it's like on the surface, very normal, but there's something very off about everyone and everything you meet and do and talk to. It's just like every interaction is like superficially like, oh, how are you doing? Oh, I'm very good. Oh, blah, 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 blah. And like in your mind, you're like, how many people has this person like buried under their crawl space? Like which are they a lizard person? Like it's just always on like that. And the writing is excellent. It's very funny, like very well done. The puzzles, I mean, are just there for the sake of like calling this a video game instead of like an animated
100%.
short.
They're like loosely, just to say, like they're integrated into the story as much as saying like, oh, you need gas in the snowmobile. Yep. And then it cuts to like, how much gas would you need for this snowmobile? And then it's sort of do a puzzle like, and then it's like, so not, you know. Yeah.
And the beauty of it is that if you don't like puzzles, they give you so many hints in this game, because like this is another like a very Coen Brothers like sort of Twin Peaksy thing is that the hints in this game are gum, because he thinks better when he's chewing gum.
Oh,
so throughout the entire game, all you just go around finding used gum, like gum stuck in places that he theoretically like chews on as he's like trying to solve a puzzle.
Because the place he's investigating and trying to open is the gum factory.
Yeah.
Oh, no, sorry.
It's an eraser factory.
It's an eraser factory. Yeah. And it's like, oh, it's so good.
And
like,
so, but like the thing about it is like, if you click anywhere that's not like a thing you can interact with, the game literally like pops up like, here's all the things you can interact with. Here's where all the gum is. Like, it very much is like, just click on the things and do the thing and let's keep going. Like, come on, man. Like, and so if you ever get stuck, it's just like, chew all the gum. It'll tell you the answer and like, you can just move on. But if you want to like sit and think about it and figure it out yourself, like, you can very easily do that as well. So it knows what it is, and it tries to be as accommodating as it can to all types of players. It's like, oh, if you don't want to do any of this stupid puzzle shit, you just want to see the story, you can very easily do that. If you do want to like ace all the puzzles like the first time, go ahead and like spend as much time as you want on it.
Yeah. Yep. Paul, did you get a chance to check it out or no?
I just saw some videos of it because I knew we were going to be talking about it, and not really enough to like comment. It's as you said, right? Like the vibe that I got the most was Fargo, especially when he goes to the hotel and he talks to the woman at the hotel.
Whoa. Like, you got a room up there, you know. It's just like
exactly.
I can't do the accent, but yeah.
No, that was pretty. You didn't embarrass yourself,
right?
And yeah, like it's just one of those things, man. Like I kind of want to play it because of that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the puzzles, I'm like, you know, maybe I'll play it with Christy. Maybe she'll take to the puzzles and I can just have her do the work.
Yeah.
You know, that might be how we go about business. But other than that, I'm probably not going to play this one.
Yeah.
So before we kind of wrap up, I did want to bring up really quick one other example that I think is just really interesting. Haven't played it, but I just think it's cool, and that's literally all I'm doing. There is on Steam a collection of anthology games called the Dread X Collection, and there's 4 of them, and there's 4 of these games. And basically these are collections of games, anthology of mini games developed by people from all over the world. It's all digital on Steam.
It's very region free, you might say.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. From 2020 onward. Basically, and when I saw it, I went, oh my God, they basically made Tales from the Crypt. Like, this is Tales from the Crypt in video game form. Like, this is the Outer Limits. This is, you know, it's that kind of thing where it's like, hey, we have this anthology and you can play all these tales of terror kind of thing. And that's what they did. And they've done, you know, 3 more, they've done 4 entries total with it. You can find, just looking at the trailers, there's everything from like lowbrow, dark comedy, kind of silly, wacky slapstick stuff to just really psychological, surreal, kind of bizarre FPS games. There's like survival sims. I saw a deck building turn-based 8-bit RPG in there.
Oh, hello.
You said the magic words.
Yeah, there was like a there's like an Eldritch Game and Watch clone in there. So it's just impossible to summarize all of it. I just think it's really cool, and if that's the kind of thing that you think is neat, to go check it out. They're all pretty cheap, especially with all the sort of content you get. Yeah. And what I like is the latest one actually features a hub world that you access all the other games through. That is its own mini horror game, and it's basically The Thing. You're walking around this Arctic base with a monster, and it's created by David Szymanski, who did Dusk. And so just thought that was neat. So I wanted to just call that out. But in the meantime, that kind of takes care of all the games that I kind of wanted to cover today, and I'm psyched for everybody going on this ride with me. So before we wrap up, I just had one other quick question for both of you guys that I want to ask, and I'll go first because I want to do this quick. But with this huge influx of games, you know, these horror games are always going to keep coming. Are there any kind of genres or games that you guys want to see either kind of come back, be paid homage to? And for me, I'm just going to say it right off the bat. The main one I want is absolutely, I want a Thing game. I want another game of the Thing. Okay, I want a Thing game
in VR
where you can actually where it delivers on the promise of the 6th generation version of the Thing game that we got, you know, on Xbox, PS2. Not that game's bad. I think it's a good game, but there's a lot of things about it that I think they didn't quite nail. And, you know, to have something that be a much more, you know, high fidelity simulation of like, we're walking around this base and one or more of these people could be a fucking alien that wants to eat my face. You know, I just think it could really work.
I think that could work if they use that system from Shadow of War, you know, the like
Nemesis system.
Yes, but they like reintegrated it to be like which one has the like Thing virus.
But that's what I mean, to me, it would be something like that. And, you know, really stress the kind of, I'd still want it to be cinematic, and that might be where it gets tricky, because it's like, with all the asymmetric multiplayer and all the Among Us clones coming out, like, it would be really tempting to just make that, but make it the thing, which I'm sure already exists. But yeah, say that quick and passing. And also another Condemned game. Please just make another Condemned game. Monolith, I know you're listening. You're not listening. I want to play as, you know, I want to track serial killers with forensic tools and look at mannequin parts for blood trails. Like, it's going to be awesome. Please. There, I said my piece. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. So, Paul, what about yourself?
You're talking about a game or a movie property?
Something like, think about like a horror game that you'd want rebooted, or, you know, some kind of like horror experience that hasn't been done yet that you would want done. If you have one. If you don't, that's cool. You know, if it's already been made, go for it. Or like, even if it's just like, man, I really want another game in this franchise or this series that plays like this. I
mean, look, come on. The obvious answer is another legit Silent Hill game.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the obvious answer. In truth, I want anything that is inspired by David Lynch. I am just such a sucker for... It's like we were saying earlier with Yuppie Psycho, right? Like, where there's something wrong and people are behaving strangely and you're not quite sure what's happening. You know, that kind of thing I have all day for. I'd love as many games of those as possible, please.
Yeah. Arnie, what about yourself?
Oh man, let Guillermo del Toro make a goddamn game already. The man.
Oh, good. Wow.
Goodness, yes.
But other than that, you know, I think kind of like on Paul's point, I'm really looking for a lot more like Cronenberg, Lynchian, sort of stuff like that. There's this game, I don't know if any of you have played it. It's like 2600 like type graphics. It's called Faith, the Unholy Trinity.
Oh yes.
Fucking terrifying game. I want something like in that style, like very sort of D-make style with a lot of body horror or something like that. On the other side of the spectrum, like give me like a fucking like Cronenberg, like a Scanner's visual novel or something, you know? Like,
hell yes.
Like, this is a game that I've mentioned before, and I'm sad we didn't get to talk about it, but Doki Doki Literature Club, which has just released like a expanded version on PS5. Fucking excellent. Like, just a great use of like a genre that is not used for horror and sort of like turning that on its head. I want something in that vein, like either like a sort of exploration game that's like very sort of retro styled, that includes all body horror, or a like light, slow visual novel that builds to like some terrifying twist.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, thus marks the end of a traumatizing venture into the black heart of spooky indie gaming.
There we go.
Courtesy of us, the Region Free Gamers, the podcast Fluid in Gaming. I want to thank Paul and Arnie for riding with me to hell on this one. We all especially want to thank listeners, patrons, and our Twitch pals for tuning in. We hope you guys enjoyed it. On that note, again, if you liked what you heard, you want to hear more, a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts is a huge solid for us. Yeah. There's over 100 past episodes available there for you to sink your vampire or lichen teeth into. You can keep track of all our shenanigans on social media using the Linktree, linktr.ee/regionfreegamers, and chat with us on our Discord channel or meet other great people. And if you fancy being generous, we do have the Patreon with some great perks.
Yep.
So thanks, everybody. Oh, sorry. One other thing before I forget. Just wanted to remind everybody, we've got an episode coming up where we would love to have your participation. Again, mentioned it at the beginning, too. We're going to be talking about our favorite gaming memories. If you got a special memory you'd like to share on the show, please let us know in the Discord or on our Instagram or via email at regionfreegamers@gmail.com. Yeah. And you can reach all our other social stuff at the Linktree as well. So,
and if you don't have like a good gaming memory, if you're just a boring person, just lie. Like,
just
make something up. Steal it from someone else.
We don't know. What the fuck? We don't know. Okay, Paul might know. Paul might know. We're not gonna know. Paul know. So thanks everybody. Stay safe. Take care out there. Have yourselves a ghoulishly great Halloween full of gaming.
That's right.
Take care.
Just gotta focus on the fundamentals. And
It's the worst Halloween episode.